You are at Real Turkey channel, and this is Attila Yaşılara. We speak of all things that are related to Turkey. Today I'm going to cover two topics: a new initiative by Turkey to join the new BRICS organization, and most likely, but not certainly, by the time you watch this video, Turkey will have graduated from the Gray List of Financial Action Task Force, which means Turkey is no longer a party to money laundering or terror financing. The gray list is sort of like a monitoring list or a semi-sanctioned list where the countries in the list do face a lot of scrutiny when it comes to their financial transactions across the nations. Okay, let's start with BRICS. BRICS is an acronym invented by a gentleman from Goldman Sachs in 1980s. I met him, but I keep forgetting his name. It's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South African Republic. These countries were rising very fast then and were soon expected to join the ranks of developed countries. That never happened, though they remained very relevant to the world political and economic scene. And lately, as the competition between China and Russia on one hand, and the United States and its allies in Asia Pacific and Europe escalated, Russia and China decided to expand the group. They want to turn it into an actual organization from a talking shop with several aims. Invitations have been sent to 16 countries, some of them accepted. Saudi Arabia, I believe, is in there. Iran is in there. Turkey wasn't invited, but when our foreign minister, Mr. Hakan Fidan, was visiting China, he suddenly announced that Turkey intends to become a member. President Putin of Russia is keen on the idea. Putin and Turkey's President Erdogan will meet in the Astana summit to be held on 3 and 4 July, where probably a deal will be hashed out. I believe Turkey will become a member of the new BRICS organization by the end of the year or so. What is BRICS for? Well, the ostensible aim is to create a new global order, which is fairer and more equitable to all the countries in the world. The current world order is designed by the United States and allies victorious in the Second World War. The Bretton Woods Agreement, IMF, World Bank, World Trade Organization, these are all the results of a desire to form a new world order. It has worked. Sometimes it failed miserably. Currently, it's not working, largely because one of the most important instruments of the global world order, World Trade Organization, has been castrated by the United States. It can no longer dispose of its function as an arbitrator of trade disputes because the arbitration panel, United States, refused to appoint new judges. Also, of course, global powers are competing. There is talk of a second Cold War. And since globalization is largely dead, there are regional trade groupings which have the same aim, essentially increase trade and make it more efficient, also probably reduce barriers across the borders for direct investment and technology. Asia Pacific has several such initiatives. United States, of course, has NAFTA, Europe, and Latin America is Mercosur, I believe. BRICS is kind of different in the sense that it's not a regional grouping and it has aims beyond increasing trade. As I've said, it intends to design a new world order, though it's not clear what the essential principles of such a new world order will be. It also intends to increase trade, of course, among members. And finally, and probably as importantly, it aims to eliminate dollars in trade between the members of this bloc. As you know, America has weaponized the dollar. Anyone who uses dollar should abide by the American or UN Security Council resolutions concerning North Korea, Ukraine, Gaza war, etc., etc. United States has also secondary sanctions regime, which actually punishes any company or entity that deals with Russia in terms of dual-use goods. Why does Turkey want to join? Well, first of all, it neatly dovetails with Turkey's foreign policy prerogatives. Turkey's primary foreign policy objective or vision can be defined as strategic independence, which means Turkey acts independently of either the Western alliance or the budding Eastern alliance to expand its influence across the borders and to do what's best for the national interests. As you know, Turkey is a member of NATO, one of the oldest members of NATO, and a candidate country for EU, though, of course, in practical terms, that's largely dead. So Turkey's strategic independence doctrine is kind of strange, but joining BRIC would take another step towards establishing that. Two, one of Mr. Erdogan's greatest successes, which has not been mentioned, is to establish trade ties between Turkey and far-flung countries, in particular in sub-Saharan nations, but also in Latin America. And of course, doing more trade with old and new members of BRICS would expand that aim. It's good. Turkey needs more foreign trade. Finally, even the new BRICS was invented, Turkey wanted to eliminate dollars or euros from her foreign trade and deal in local currencies. Russia has been approached to deal in Turkish lira and Russian ruble. These efforts, of course, failed, but any platform which intends to reduce the usage of dollar is also very close to Turkey's own foreign policy priorities. So, overall, it's a positive effort, sort of like a call option on the future of BRICS. We don't know whether it would become successful, what kind of a world order it intends to design, whether it will be able to develop alternatives to current policy instruments of the neoliberal world order, named IMF, World Bank, World Trade Organization. It already has an Asian bank, which is making a small amount of loans to poor countries. And probably China's Belt and Road related project loans would also be included and would be made available to countries that join the BRICS. It could turn into something that is a realistic alternative to address the shortcomings of the new world order, the American world order, or it could become another block in the intensified competition between the East and the West, the Muslim nations, Judeo-Christian nations, etc., etc. We simply don't know. But certainly, membership will not hurt Turkey. But there are also other issues involved here, which I don't think have been discussed, even though they do require some merit. For instance, Mr. Putin is concerned that Mehmet Şimşek, Turkey's economy czar, is pulling back Mr. Erdogan to the Western alliance. Turkey is sort of the black sheep of the Western alliance. As I've said, we do things that are not necessarily part of the policy set of either the NATO or the EU, sort of like Orban in Hungary, only at a larger scale. Putin, responding to a question by a journalist during St. Petersburg Economic Forum, said Turkey is drawing a lot of financial aid from the West, probably meaning the new project finance agreements Turkey signed with the World Bank. He said he doesn't mind that. It's probably good for Turkey, but he suspects that these arrangements have the ulterior motive of downgrading Turkey's commercial ties with Russia, which will not be good for Turkey. And he added that he told so to his friend Erdogan. So, an attempt to join BRICS, which will probably be accepted by the members, is a concession to Putin, sort of, green lighting or signaling that, we are a part of the Western alliance, but we remain a close ally of Russia as well. The fears that Mr. Mehmet Şimşek is pulling Erdogan in the direction of the Western alliance are not limited to Putin. At home, too, a school of thought, a camp called the Eurasianists, also fear that that's one of the objectives of Mehmet Şimşek. In the context of Turkey, Eurasianists are those who believe that the future belongs to the East, to Eurasia, Russia, China, also Central Asia, and Turkey's historical roots as well as cultural identity is more of an Eastern variety, and therefore our social and economic development would be accelerated if we turn our face to Eurasia rather than our Western vocation. This ideology is not represented officially in the parliament, but almost every party has Eurasianist members, Turkish military, security establishment at large, diplomacy, and a lot of the experts who express opinions on social media are Eurasianists. So it is also a signal to them that to obtain more foreign financing, Turkey may try to develop better relations with the West, but its policy orientation remains in the direction of Eurasia. So anyhow, it's sort of like, killing many birds with one stone. I don't see how it will harm Turkey. Let's go to the FATF Gray List and say a few words about that. First of all, there's also a blacklist which contains a dozen countries which are like failed states or pirate states where money laundering and terror financing is rampant. The Gray List are those countries that are not in full compliance with the regulations established by Financial Action Task Force. Turkey was re-added to the list in 2021, not because of a particular incident, but because we didn't fully comply with the regulations. In particular, we didn't have a crypto legislation. Turkey now addressed, well, if you're in the gray list, life becomes harder for any company or bank that wants to do business, abroad. You get more scrutiny. You're subject to higher compliance requirements. Because FATF is a powerful institution. It is probably as powerful as the anti-money laundering arm of American Treasury, OFAC. And countries that are sanctioned by FATF find it very difficult to do business abroad. So being removed from the gray list or graduating from gray list obviously will make it much easier for Turkey. Now, one aspect of it is, of course, there are certain funds out there which have ethical principles in their founding charter, which may consider investing into Turkish assets, but may not be able to do so because we're part of the gray list. So graduating from the gray list would, in theory, attract more financial investment. It is also a big issue for Turkey's Borsa Istanbul, which is suffering from a lack of good news. There is a lot of talk that, as I've said, since being removed from the gray list is good for more financial investment, ergo Borsa Istanbul should rise, which is probably correct. So if, as expected, the session in Singapore, which will be held on 28th of June, as you watch this video, concludes that Turkey has complied with all the regulations, then that would also be a boost in the arm of Borsa Istanbul. But there are other benefits which will accrue over time. First, Trade finance is more difficult. If a Turkish bank or non-financial company wishes to get a trade loan or a letter of credit, it's subject to a huge amount of scrutiny by the compliance department of global international banks, which don't want to get into trouble with FATF. Things become slower. Probably Turkish banks and non-financial corporates do pay a higher interest rate for being on FATF. Being removed solves that problem. It could also be a signal that Turkey is making progress in a variety of areas in terms of establishing orthodox economic policies and thus indirectly attract more financial capital. And perhaps there are companies out there which intend to invest into Turkish companies, M&As, mergers and acquisitions, but are afraid of an absence of rule of law. I don't think by itself getting a clear or clean bill of health from FATF would resolve all of those doubts, but it's a good start. It's a good, step. So it would also raise the credibility of Mehmet Şimşek's economic stabilization program. I think it's a largely done deal because Mehmet Şimşek is traveling to Singapore to attend the session. Usually, an important minister will not attend such meetings if the conclusion is going to be a disappointment, though I am personally not certain that all of the difficulties have been worked out. First of all, Turkey is clearly not in compliance with the United States secondary sanctions regime. A lot of Turkish entities are being sanctioned. I think over the last 2 weeks, America added 2 more Turkish companies or entities on its sanction list for trading with Russia in sanctioned goods. I have no evidence that Ankara encourages such transactions, but there's lax enforcement. So in theory, United States could object to Turkey being removed from the gray list. 2, it's really hard to say that Turkey has cracked down effectively on narcotics-related money laundering. A renowned tax expert, Mr. Ozan Bingöl, recently in promoting his new book, spoke to a couple of newspapers where he claimed that there is drug money, narcotics money circulating in Turkey to the tune of 20 to 60 billion American dollars. Now, that's a lot of money, and there's a lot of evidence that South American cocaine trade now goes to Europe and the Middle East through Turkey because of lax enforcement. And another video I will soon shoot actually reveals that Turkey is very close to becoming a mafia state. I mean, the Interior Ministry is busting a new gang every day. A lot of Balkan mafia members have settled in Turkey, a country which is only recognized by Turkey. Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is notorious for turning a blind eye to narcotics trade and money laundering. So letting Turkey get off so easily could lead to complacency. These are personal opinions. I haven't really heard any expert expressing similar opinions, but let me put it this way. If FATF decides not to remove Turkey from the gray list, it would be a great shock. And I'm fairly sure that Borsa Istanbul would suffer a correction. Thank you very much. This has been another video of Real Turkey channel. As you know, we are a very small community here. If you like this video, share it with your friends who may be interested in Turkey. If we can increase our traffic, hopefully algorithm will push us higher. You know me by now. I try to explain Turkey to English-speaking world as best as I can. If you find my work useful, help me promote it. Have a good week. This is Attila Eşala saying goodbye from an Istanbul midnight.